Hello, everyone, and welcome to the public launch of Unscripted. I am Jesse Mahler, and I'm a program manager here at Futures Without Violence. If you are new to Futures Without Violence, we are a national nonprofit that is dedicated to ending and preventing many forms of violence, domestic violence, sexual violence, and much, much more. And here on the public education team, we focus on addressing the roots, the cultural roots, the attitudes, the ideas, the behaviors that underpin where these forms of violence come from. And a big focus of ours is work with boys and men, inviting men to be a part of the solution, inviting men, inspiring men, training and supporting men to take action and leadership. And that is really the foundation of Unscripted. We are so excited to have you here. I say public launch of Unscripted because we have 14 campuses that are currently piloting and running different types of campaign activities across the country. And so we hope that you, if you're new to this campaign, will take on the campaign and keep it running. This campaign, I'll talk a lot more about the details, a lot more about the background of it, but just so that we're all on the same page about what it is we're talking about. This is a campaign that's going to be running over the course of this year, although we expect it to run over next year and hope that continues to build momentum. And this is a campaign that focuses on storytelling and on charting a new path for work, for violence prevention work and efforts in education, to kind of change it up, to move away from some of the compliance-driven, some definition-oriented and focused education that we do around issues of violence, violence prevention, healthy relationships, and to focus on authenticity. And from that standpoint, I'll talk a bit more in a moment about why we created this campaign and why we think it's so relevant and pertinent in this moment. So coming out of this session, and this session will be posted online. If you're watching it online, hello. Thank you for being a part of this. We want you to come away with clarity upon where this came from, what this campaign is about, what its role is in promoting healthy manhood, in preventing violence. We want you to have a clear sense of the tools and resources that are at your disposal, all the adaptability of them. And we want you to have a sense of what this really looks like to bring to your campus. So what are the sort of menu of options that are at your disposal? And what are those next steps and considerations that you'll have, as well as what are resources that we will continue to provide on behalf of Futures for you. So we're going to start today by talking about where this campaign came from, the background. We'll then get into more of the real details, the objectives at a behavioral level, the themes, the tone, and we're going to do a walkthrough on our website of all of the materials. We'll then get into the menu of options for how to bring the campaign to your campus. We've created some tiers so that this is really accessible, so that if you can do only a little bit this spring, that's possible. But if you really want to have this be a springboard and to deepen your work around men's engagement, then that's also very possible through this campaign. We'll then get to hear from a few of the campuses that are running the campaign this fall in terms of some examples and testimonials for what they're doing, and we will end with Q&A. We will also have in December, or later in November, and then December and January, other training opportunities and times to chat with other campuses, collaborate with other campuses. So at the end of the session, I will detail those as well. Let's talk about the background of where this campaign came from. On the screen right now, you'll see four statistics that we think really capture important elements of the state of young men in the United States. Many of you working on college campuses, I imagine, are already familiar with the overarching decline in enrollment and retention rates of male students. There are so many socioeconomic factors that go into that, secondary school factors, healthcare, there's so many systemic factors that go into that, and some cultural and social norms and roots are also play a role in that. Related to the three other statistics on here. So 65% of young men feel that no one really knows me. That is from Equimundo, one of our partners, State of American Men 2023 report. So we are seeing isolation, we are seeing disconnection, we are seeing um, we're seeing this really permeate, and that's impacted too by the third piece around all of these online influences in the lives of young men. For those of you who have been connected to the broader Catapult initiative, Catapult Campus Action for Healthy Manhood initiative that we are running, we just completed a two-part series on the manosphere and how our educational strategies on campus can respond to some of the narratives and the scripts that are being put forward by a variety of online male influencers. But we see that nearly 50% of young men trust one or more pro-violence voices. So we see this deluge of content that is promoting really rigid ideas of what it means to be men, that is promoting homophobic messages, that promoting content that is about dominating and controlling women, that is promoting highly sexualized content of women and girls, which is not new. That has been true of pornography, but you're now seeing new AI apps and features that enable this. And the fourth statistic here we think is perhaps the most relevant or impactful of all, which is that two-thirds of men, when they are acting within the man box many of you are familiar with. Equimundo, in their 2017 study, broke the man box into 7 pillars, including things like hyperindependence, hypersexuality, the need to be dominant and controlling. You can't ask for help. You have to be straight. These types of things that when men act within this box, they're more praised, they're more accepted, and yet there's all of these negative repercussions, mental health, mental illness repercussions, increased risk of addiction, of drug and alcohol abuse, increased risk of car accidents, and unsurprisingly, increased risk of perpetrating sexual violence and sexual harassment. And so we see this concoction of what young men are grappling with today, this conflict of messages. And what we take away from that is the need for conversation, the need for space to talk openly about these topics, about mental health, about these online influences, about dating. And that is really creating space for vulnerability, where so much of our education, from a just scale standpoint, from an understaffing standpoint for violence preventionists on college campuses, is um, online courses, is mandatory, training that might be very definitional, thinking about compliance and requirements. And these things we have heard over and over again from listening sessions that we've conducted with college men. They are turnoffs. So how are we adjusting to lead with story that is promoting vulnerability, that is promoting connection as means of getting into these things? We heard from some listening sessions, fraternity members that really care about many of these issues. When we ask the question, like, what are your conversations about dating look like? And it was like, well, we don't really talk about dating that much or sex, but when we do, maybe there's just jokes about it. It's kind of making light of it, and there might be belittling. So if we're not even able to talk about just dating in a caring and supportive way amidst brotherhoods, then how are we going to even get to the next step of really promoting leadership to end violence and to take action? So that is what Unscripted is trying to do, is to really pave this way for a new type of engagement of men that we hope has ripple effects for many years to come. So let us talk more about what this campaign really entails. And if this wasn't clear already during this webinar session, this is going to be mostly me presenting just so we can get through the content and for the recording that's going to go up on our website, but we will have time for Q&A. It's not my MO to have it be so little interactivity. I love training and just having time for discussion, but we're going to get through this content so we can really see what this campaign is about. So let's talk about what Unscripted is, what it entails, and all the resources. The three themes of content that run throughout our event templates, our flyers, our social media, our mental health and connection, dating and healthy relationships, and leadership to end violence. If your campus wants to lean into one of these but not the others, I mean, I think all of these are connected to each other, but if you want to focus on one because of maybe another initiative that you have going on or what you've heard from students, that's okay. We want this to be adaptable. We want this to be responsive to what you are seeing on your campus and how the materials can be relevant. The tone of this campaign is intended to be, as I mentioned, and we say this at Futures all the time, is inviting, not indicting, or soliciting. I think there's this real response we've heard in listening sessions about, I don't want to be solicited, I don't want to be kind of told what to do. So, okay, what does that invitation then look like? What is the tone of that invitation? So this needs to be, needs to feel authentic. It needs to be as student driven as possible. It needs to be tailored. We want to, from a storytelling approach, model what care looks like. And just because we're inviting and not indicting, that doesn't mean there's no accountability. Accountability for our mistakes, accountability for ways that we may have hurt other people, and how we can grow and learn. And some of this is reframing growth too. And then lastly, we want this to be direct, kind of straight talk, like let's just get to business. We know that that is a tone that works with many men, but we also want this to be humorous, and we want it to include story, and we want this to feel real and tactile in a way that sometimes, again, the definition oriented way of approaching education doesn't get to. Our overarching objectives, which we think are useful for everyone to be aware of if you're participating, of what this is all culminating towards, are one, that leadership development pathway. We need more men to be vocal advocates in their communities, in their groups, with their friends, on social media for care, connection, for equity, against relationship abuse. And we know that there is a huge dearth of men that are in professional positions that are dedicating their lives to these same types of principles and values. And we need to create that type of a pipeline. So leadership development is the first big area that we're seeking for the campaign to grow. The second is on the narrative and behavioral change. So how are we shifting the way that many men on campuses are perceiving education? Maybe this is a reframing of the offices, for violence prevention, sexual assault prevention, health and wellness, whatever offices you might be a part of or faculty. How are we creating new associations with this education? How are we shaping those narratives that lead to violence, that create stigma, that prevent male survivors from coming forward, from sharing their stories? And the last is in this moment where we see such a crackdown on this work, where we see budgets being so impacted, we think it's so important that we make the case. Why does this work matter for men's engagement? How is storytelling impactful and desired? And what are stories that we can uplift? And so through videos that we produce, through social media, through our website, many different channels, we want to be able to make the case so that we can get more funding for our campuses and really raise the visibility of the important work that you all do. On a very tactile level, some of the specific actions that we're seeking for men to come away from our events are taking those everyday actions to care, to with friends, to be vulnerable, to interrupt abuse. There is those bystander intervention elements of things, to develop those caring and connection skills around emotional literacy, checking in on friends. There is then lead, but more so it's creating environments and spaces where men want to commit more. They see the value in this for themselves. Why does it matter for me to be having these conversations, to be attending these trainings, to be leading within my groups? What benefit does it have? And then lastly, to see you all victim service advocates, preventionists as allies towards their success, the success of their groups, and their well-being. So let us take a look at our website and all of the campaign materials. The website includes two current pages and then a additional page that will be coming in the spring. We have more of a student-facing website. We have a more staff and faculty-facing informational part of the website, and then you'll see 7 different kind of categories of materials that are all available in a Google Drive for you to download. So let us take a look at all of those items. Here is our website. So this is the more student-facing page, and you can see that this is a bit more of a narrative-driven page. So it almost reads a bit more like one of our campaign cards of what is this about? What is the script that we've been told to follow about what it means to be a man, and how do we break free from that? So don't stand out, don't show emotion, don't get soft. What is the impact of this script? How does it hurt us? How does it hurt others? It tells us how to live, but how do we buck that? How do we ditch that? How do we move forward in a time when we are being inundated by all of these competing and unhealthy messages? So how can men be free? Free to care, free to be open, and to not be restricted by all of these messages about what it means to be men. And this takes us into our primary campaign video, which is actually it's our primary campaign video, but it is one of 6 different videos that are a part of our playlist on YouTube that you will have access to, and that we will put some links in the chat for. So let us play this to give you a sense of what the campaign looks and feels like, and then we will look at all of the resources.
What does being a scripted man look like to you?
The only emotions he shows is anger.
Everything relies on me and that everything is on my shoulders.
The men in the media that we saw had to be tough. Do I have to be in that role to get friends?
I grew up going to rodeos every weekend. It was what we did, and there were people who judged you because you didn't fit that stereotype.
I was the captain of a soccer team. COVID brought to light the actual friends I had. I went from being the man of the world to no one cares. I looked through validation on TikTok. I had a fake audience that would fill me with likes and views and comments.
We're raised to fit within a box. We're told this is how you should be because this is how a man is.
It was easier to not exist than to try and fix myself. That answer should never be the answer.
It wasn't until I graduated high school that I realized I could be whoever I wanted to be. I want to open up. I want to be involved. Being open with each other really pushed me.
I'm in college now. We usually have weekly meetings of topics to talk about, people who want to listen, people who need to reflect, need to open up.
Now I know that your struggle belongs with mine and my struggle belongs with you.
Being able to listen to each other and have those conversations, we can grow as people. I love being out in nature. Some of my major passions are photography and music.
My friends and family see me as a bright light.
There's so much the world has to offer that you just don't really know until you start making connections with people. That has completely changed my life. Being unscripted means living in your own truth, being authentic.
Resilience, integrity, just you.
A bit of the tone of the campaign. You didn't get deep into story there, but that's more of a teaser for other videos that will be coming out that really do get into story and that will be represented in the storytelling events. And so this is the more student-facing page, but if you go to bring Unscripted to your campus, which is also at the very top of the page, bring Unscripted to your campus, it'll take you to an overview of the campaign from a bit more of a detailed level. And we see this as a very useful, you'll zoom in a little bit here. We see this as a very useful page for sharing with colleagues that might be looking for just an overview of what this, why Unscripted, how to launch your campaign. Are you looking for a creative way to engage men? You have these story panels from members of those videos. You have a bit around why the campaign is unique. what the campaign is seeking to shift and to address so you get more of the tone. And then how do we launch the campaign? And this is where the campaign materials come in. So the campaign materials they're quite robust, and we hope that they really serve a number of purposes that you as educators, preventionists, play on your campuses, or students or faculty too. So the first are our campaign event templates. In this are some broad general guidelines for best practices, for storytelling, for how to make sure that your events are successful. Again, event is a broad term. Some of these are just workshops or discussions. Some of them are art. So they're not solely these necessarily large events, 100+ people, although some of them are that. So you see story writing workshop, story slam, uh, more discussion-based workshop like 10 Tenets of Living Unscripted, film screenings, short videos, which have resources for a variety of those visual means, visual arts workshops, a literature workshop, which is kind of like a book group, and a panel discussion. And so there's a lot that's in here. And the idea is that this is very adaptable for you. So if you want to use something verbatim, what's in there, go for it. If you want to take an activity and modify it for the context of a fraternity that you're a part of or you work with, or otherwise, then go for that as well. But we think that this is a really kind of diverse set of materials that will help you, run a campaign that's relevant for your campus. The second piece are our stickers, and I'll give you a moment just to take these in because we think they're very fun. Shout out to RVCC, Recognize Violence, Change Culture, that are such excellent, excellent partners. They work on college campuses and clearly very talented designers. This is part of our broader tabling package. So we have tabling materials, we have campaign cards, we have stickers, which you can purchase right here that is on the RVCCC website. Uh, we also have posters. We also have a tabling uh, tabling cloth. Now I can't remember, I'm tripping over my words there, but a number of materials for your tabling. And so we have posters that are adaptable. So all of these items that you see are in Canva. So they're all adaptable for you. Scrolling a little bit too quickly through these, but you can take a look after this as well. And the idea for these is we are crossing out the script that is limiting and hurting men and everyone, and then we are saying what we are free to be. And so you're welcome to change the text. We would love your students to get involved, or if you are a student, please rewrite these to what you think is going to be relevant. And you can add photos. So if you want it to be specific to a student group, that is on your campus, then you can add those live photos as opposed to stock imagery. Also, you can change the colors. So if you want to make the whole unscripted campaign on your campus, your campus colors and co-brand it, that's all good. Here are campaign cards, which double as posters. On the back side of these, you can see that there are there is a text that provides an overview of the campaign and what it's trying to accomplish, and the QR code that goes to our website and our Instagram. Table activities. This is a chatterbox. It's really fun. There's 8 provocative questions that are on there that you open up and can see and have people read out. And you could do some mini mic interviews with them on the spot. And then you have our flyer templates. So for the various types of events, you're welcome to use these or, bust them up and change the colors, but these are some initial graphics that you can use and to adapt for your campus. But it's all customizable and it's all in Canva. The one other thing that is worth referencing there is as you get to the materials request download, so once you fill out this download form, and you'll see that there's a licensing agreement. This licensing agreement, we highly recommend kind of checking it through your various offices. We know institutions of higher education have a variety of considerations when it comes to licensing and IP. And so take a look at that. You may need to circulate it internally. But the idea is that it gives you the full license to make these adaptations, the full license to change colors, to do co-branding. It just gives us the ability to share and collaborate. So, for example, if one of your schools creates wonderful event and promotional materials, that we have the ability to repurpose those on other campuses so that we can keep the momentum going and to collaborate across our campuses and campaign. And then you see a little bit about who created the campaign. This is not everyone who was a part of it, but that was the Catapult Symposium that we hosted at our office in San Francisco in June. Follow our Instagram. So our Instagram is another resource for you. And if I pull it up right here, you can see that we don't have a huge following right now. We never anticipate this to be an enormous following, but maybe you'll follow it right now, or you'll have other students that will in the coming days. And we are going to be creating content all year and beyond. There'll be video content. There will be, content, for example, for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. There will be conversation starters. There will be memes. There will be campus spotlights. And over the course of the year, we want to uplift stories that are being shared. So all of these items are also in Canva templates for you. So you're welcome to repost what we have, but you're also welcome to revise and take and adapt what's on the screen right now. So all of these are templates that you'll be able to adapt and use for your own social media purposes. So it'll be this running archive of social media resources and templates. That maybe I'll give you a taste of, if you haven't seen our Hollow meme, and shout out to Kamaile. I'm sorry for not mentioning you until this moment, Kamaile. Patton on our team has been essential at so many aspects of the Unscripted campaign, as well as creating these memes specifically in our social media, which are just are very fun.
Mhm.
So that is just to give a bit of a flavor for what's included. But you also have other items like this one, for example, that include, for example, just we think very useful content about myths and realities, and specifically content that is focused on content and messaging that we think will resonate with male audiences across campus. So those are all the materials. We'll have time for Q&A a little bit later, when we would love to hear questions that you have. We would love to you know answer any questions you have about how to use those or the context. But first, what we'd like to do is talk more about what it looks like bringing this to your campus, and from a very practical sense, from a best practices sense, and from the kind of tiered menu of options that I mentioned earlier. So some of the considerations that we would like to share with you from our many years of working with college campuses and with the cohort of 14 pilot institutions this fall, is really just to assess the question of what's your capacity, what's your staffing, are there existing initiatives or structures, peer educator groups? Are there mental health or dating campaigns that you're already running that Unscripted could be braided with? How can those be connected to Unscripted? Are there partners that are already really strong? From a standpoint of all of this needing to be tailored and really feel like it is kind of student driven or led or informed as much as possible, how can athletics, Greek life, res life, whomever it might be, really be a part of this and be involved from a messaging standpoint? Are there student leaders that are already connected with you that would be able to, co-lead and develop? And funding, which is related to capacity. Unfortunately, at this moment, Futures does not have funding for campuses that are running unscripted activities. We had a small amount of funding that was available for the pilot campuses this fall, but this is part of the reason why it's so important that we are making the case for why this matters, so that we can bring in more funding on an ongoing basis for the campaign. Oh, and I neglected to mention too, there's other stuff coming on our social media. This is a bit of a non sequitur, like an art contest that we're going to be running, where we're going to have big grand prizes for students that are creating art. So you know, couldn't forget to mention the art contest. So let's talk about these tiered options for implementation. So we want this to be accessible if you're just able to run one event, and we want this to be as expansive if you're able to really deepen this work and these efforts, depending on your capacity. And some of this is also from, you might think about one event is not really a campaign, but when you think about the potential of hundreds of campuses, 50 to 100 campuses running the campaign over the course of this spring, as a whole across the country, that feels like a campaign. And so a single event is the tier one, two events and social media is the second tier, and then even further deepening with discussion groups and more creative social media work and podcasts and publicity opportunities would be the third tier. So let's take a look in more detail at this graphic that we created to walk through what these tiers include, and this will be available on the website as well. So the first, from a single event standpoint, is an event for our Day of Action during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We're going to be sharing that date very soon, so stay tuned with it, as well as some other promotional materials. And our suggested event would be a film screening that is using one of the films that's a part of our event templates that includes a discussion or a panel afterwards that you would do tabling for, that you would do social media promotion for. And that's, again, a kind of a simple package for how to run Unscripted during Sexual Assault Awareness Month this spring. If you're looking to go a bit beyond that, then two events in social media would, again, some of this is self-explanatory, would be a second event before that Sexual Assault Awareness Month Day of Action. A sample or a suggested event would be a Valentine's Day workshop on healthy relationships, dating, and masculinity or manhood. Or it could be an art workshop on, the man box unpacked, constructing the person that you want to be. And you can see here just building out the timeline of when tabling and social media work would need to take place to promote these items. And then lastly, what it would look like to build on that in the spring for tier three is in February and March, doing a bi-weekly discussion group, which you could also use our broader Catapult campus toolkit for engaging men, which includes 19 different workshop discussion guides and topics and activities. So that could also be to prepare people for, instead of a film screening as a suggested event, you could do a story slam. So you could really have that bi-weekly discussion group be cultivating people's stories, be a chance to explore people's experiences, and then lead to real story preparation for the SAM Day of Action. Then you'd have social media to promote this across the whole of this timeline. You would do some promotion in January and February with the recruiting for the biweekly discussion group, and then again doing a little bit more, maybe student radio or podcasts. We know a couple campuses this fall are doing podcasts, these other elements to help build this out and feel more like a campaign. So those are the three tiers that we would suggest. But if those events don't work for you, or again, you have something else that's already happening during SAM, we have 9 event templates that are there for you to tinker with. These are just as suggested. If you want to take this out of the box and implement this as you see it on the screen, we have this here for you, and you can develop more of a work plan coming off of this. Just one more slide before we get into hearing from some of the campuses that have been piloting the campaign this fall. So a few principles that we think are particularly important for any of those tiers to use are: one, that it has to be student-led or at minimum informed. At different levels, developing content, developing messaging, students have to be involved. Tailored to your campus, not just from a color standpoint, but who are the student populations that you will be running the campaign with, and how can they be involved at developing this and taking ownership of this for themselves. Multi-track engagement. So part of what we want to do by breaking out of this rigid structure of prevention education is storytelling, podcast, art, using these other creative approaches that we think will are really worth piloting and worth testing. And lastly, from a tabling standpoint in particular, making sure that students that are involved, staff and faculty that are involved are really equipped, whether or not you provide a training for, you attend the training that we provide in uh, December or January, or just providing some preparation to represent the campaign, to speak about the campaign in an informed way, and to have people feel like they're a part of the campaign. So, much more to say, but that was quite a lot of content. And where we want to go now is having you be able to hear from a few campuses that have been running the campaign. And we're going to start by hearing from Northeastern Illinois University. And I believe I'm going to be passing it to Aiden to share for a few minutes about what you've been doing.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Um, so we are really happy that we got this campaign going because prior to this, at Northeastern Illinois, we had been trying to kick off some sort of men's engagement work, and so I work in our Office of Health Services, and when our campus received the OBW campus grant, we saw that as an opportunity to try to get this work going. And we did some listening sessions. We tried to kick off some events, but it never really gained any momentum. Um, and so having this grant, I think one part of it is the marketing, where people are more excited, it seems, to get involved with a grant or some campaign. Um, and then we've also been receiving a lot of guidance from Jesse and Kamile on, I mean, everything they just showed you, but also we attended the summit and at the Futures office, and we did a lot of networking, and that actually introduced us to some of our students who were interested in this work. And so by involving ourselves with this, we really got some events off the ground. And we've been able to keep them student led. So one of the examples is on this image on the bottom left, you can see a bunch of like a group circle. We kind of hijacked our barbershop talks at our university, and we brought in and we talked about the State of American Men report, and we picked out a couple of those highlights and discussed them as a group. And this is, we're just kind of liaisons here, kind of moderating the conversation to make sure we stay on track. But it's kind of students taking over and sharing their opinions and challenging each other. We're also one of the campuses who are doing um, the podcast, and we're actually recording a podcast tomorrow. And we did the same thing. We kind of just gave resources, creative power to our students, and they figured out what they wanted to talk about, how they wanted to show up. They titled the podcast. They're pretty much taking care of everything. And we're just kind of here in the background supporting them and making sure they have everything that they need. So it's been really exciting for us. We really hope we're approaching this intentionally so that we kind of institutionalize some of these events where we can continue doing these every semester. Um, I also wanted to share that we did have a few snipes in the beginning. It turns out you can't just get a grant and have it at our university. So we had to kind of figure it out what all the processes were, the logistics behind it, which offices had to get involved. And this is something that we didn't do beforehand. And we're still currently working with our university to make sure that we're following all the policies that they have. So I would just caution everybody, if you do get funding for your thing, make sure that your university knows about that ahead of time before you agree to take the grant. But all in all, we're really grateful for this because it's really facilitated through kind of the marketing and the guidance that we have, and we're very excited about being able to pull off some of these events this semester.
Thanks, Aiden. Appreciate you being here and partnering on this campaign. Unfortunately, our partner Bob Vines at the University of Wyoming couldn't be here. He had a last minute conflict, but they hosted a very large storyteller night back in September where they prepared the storytellers. They had over 100 people present. You can see the storytellers in the top left right there. And if you look at our Instagram, there's a University of Wyoming spotlight that includes some of the student testimonies from their experience. And it seems like it was such a wonderful event and chance for sharing and vulnerability. they have also leveraged other things that are already present. For example, they have the Shepherd Symposium on social justice, which they brought in Ekimundo, they brought in myself, they brought in Dr. Saeed Hill to talk about the state of American men 2025, which was, again, part of building momentum and interest and awareness of Unscripted. And they've co-sponsored other types of events on campus. They've co-sponsored a theater production, they co-sponsored other panel discussions, they're doing regular tabling, and an existing group that they have, Safe Men, which is focused on community projects of men taking leadership to make their communities healthier and safer. They have kind of co-branded and brought in some of the unscripted materials into that ongoing group as well. So that is a taste of the University of Wyoming. And last but not least, we are going to go over to Evan at the University of Vermont.
Hey everybody. Thank you, Jesse. My name is Evan Katita, he, him, his, Men and Masculinities Program Director at UVM. Just here to talk very briefly about what we've been doing, how we've been leveraging this grant. Um, we also had the reason why we even sought this grant was because we also had a men and masculinities discussion group already happening, co-facilitated with me and my colleague Ali Mahmoud, who's Assistant Director of Interfaith Center. And we knew that we were reaching, it was for students and staff and faculty of all genders, and yet our audience was primarily male and masculine identifying, but they were very high achieving students, and we were understanding we needed to bolster our outreach in other ways to reach those students who were a little more using the State of American Men Report language in a more precarious position. And so, we've used this grant to do, as some of this slide suggests, essentially, we do two programs a semester, but also then that we own, but then one collaborative. So we continued this discussion group called My Meaning of Masculinity. We reframed it. It's historically known as M3, but now we just use the titles and that resonate, with our students. So this first one we did, which was in September, was on the how we kind of hear the different dating advice happening and how that shows up or how that shapes expectations of men in the dating scene. The next one we did in October was about self-care amid hustle culture and what those expectations look like for men in hustle culture. And we took care of ourselves by doing a little hike. And then this collaborative event is a film screening. Happy to share that link. Anybody can request this film that's based in Vermont about how, essentially impacts of male loneliness and what those are looking like in Vermont. And I can just share like the strengths of this grant truly, hopping off of what Jesse has shared. Yes, it's great to have this funding, but really it's been extremely helpful to have this in a cohort model in which we can kind of just like, run through ideas back and forth between institutions and also get so much of these outreach materials and different campaign assets that saves us time and lifts a lot of the legwork off of us so we can focus on engaging students and getting insights from them on what to do. And that's what we needed. We needed more time and resources to bolster that outreach.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. I'm really excited to hear. I know that your film screening is coming up very soon. So
yeah, 188 registrants as of now.
There you go, everyone. Bring on guys to your campus and have 188 people registered to come. Thanks, Evan. Really appreciate you being here and being a part of this and partnering on all this too. So yes, and we will have more opportunities for connecting and collaborating across campuses, which I'm about to get to. So on that exact note, what is coming up? Where are we headed from here? So the first is that our broader Catapult collaborative, which is on well, now I can't remember. Is it the third Tuesday or the fourth Tuesday of the month? Can't remember. But on the 25th of November, we are going to have that collaborative time be focused on Unscripted. So we have a few minutes right now for Q&A, but if you want to come talk about what it would look like to bring this to your campus in the spring on a practical level, to workshop ideas, to talk about challenges. We're going to use that collaborative space. And so please come and chat, and we'll, break into small groups and talk through how to bring Unscripted to your campus. We are going to be scheduling a few different trainings across December and January on key concepts for the campaign. So storytelling practices, messaging practices, tabling practices. So stay tuned for those dates, which will be coming very soon as well. And then there's going to be just other things that are cropping up. So if you're on our email list, which I think pretty much all of you are at this point, then you will get updates about things like the art contest, for example, where we hope to really get some wonderful student art, where grand prizes are going to be, $500+ So those will be some real prizes that are on the table for people. Just have to keep plugging the art contest because we're just excited to see what students come up. Given what our stickers and our posters look like, I'm just, we're really interested in that student art side of things. You have my email, you have Kamaile's email. Unscripted Futures is our Instagram. In addition to the actual URL, unscriptedfutures.org will redirect to the website, which is under the broader Catapult website. And so unscriptedfutures.org is one that you can use to send to the more student narrative facing side of things. So with that said, I will open it up for question and answer. We are at time, so I think we are going to call it, but thank you for being here and for being involved. And please come on the 25th, which is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, for that collaborative time to chat with other campuses about the campaign. And we really hope that you run the campaign in the new year. And you have our emails, so if you want to reach out about anything, do let us know. So thank you, and be in touch with you soon.